entertainment, insights. Don't take life too seriously. Welcome to Brainsky Unleashed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Brainsky Unleashed. Today, we are being joined by Chris Gaddis. Now, Chris comes to the show. He's an interesting guy because he created a company. He's the founder of a company, Chris. Is that fair to say?
Co-founder, to be fair. Yes.
Co-founder of Capstone Health. And this is something that was brought, it fell into my lap, brought to my attention. I went, holy crap, bombshell information here that I think every single employer and every single W-2 employee who listens to the show, who knows people who could possibly benefit from this, who should be sharing the living, breathing snot out of this, should pay attention, because this is an absolute opportunity that exists that doesn't exactly cost much of anything, quite frankly, and in many cases doesn't cost anything at all, but is a tremendous benefit for the employer and the employee who happens to also have healthcare coverage. So, Chris, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
If we can start off with, what in the hell do you do?
It's a loaded question. We do quite a bit of things. But to your point, right now, most of that is Capstone Health. And because of the nature of the program, because of the benefits that are derived for both employers and employees, from savings and from ability to utilize the program to get access to benefits they maybe normally wouldn't be able to. That's where most of our time is spent, but it really is kind of a door opener, an opportunity to work with these business owners to go deeper and help them and their employees. So it's a really unique opportunity to do all the things we do on top of that.
I'm going to ask an incredibly stupid question for which I already know the answer. So this is a softball.
Okay. Like that.
Do employers have problems with employee retention?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All
yes.
Right.
One Google search will tell you that.
Now that we've established the obvious.
Yeah.
We all know that employers have a lot of problems with employee retention. And what you've done is you've basically dug into what exists within the Affordable Care Act to create a supplementary benefit to health insurance that allows employers to provide an added benefit to their employees and take damn good coverage, or provide damn good coverage to the employee above and beyond what a medical insurance plan could do. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, there's a lot of pieces in there to unpack, but yes, it's Affordable Care Act. It didn't create it; it opened up the doors for wellness plans, as they're known. So wellness plans have been around as something employees have had access to in the past, but very frankly was underutilized. They were created for the purpose of helping employees seek proactive care and help reduce costs of future insurance increases, because now they're being proactive, they're doing their physical, they're losing weight, they're handling their blood pressure, doing these things. So less claims in the future. Right. It didn't work. Employees weren't engaging. And so as part of, as you said, the Affordable Care Act that was enacted in 2010, it opened up this door a little bit broader for these wellness plans and the ability to bolt onto the medical plans and really enhance them, create a program that does work, but create better access to benefits, as you alluded to.
Okay, so you use the term bolt-on, which, that is exactly what I used when I was initially exposed to this, as I was trying to describe it to others. This is a bolt-on. It is an add-on to an existing approved employer-sponsored healthcare plan.
Sure. It's one of the prerequisites is that you do have a major medical plan through your group employer to be able to participate in this. So that is an important factor. And then you use the term bolt-on, where you just part of that plan. I should say part, right? It gets attached to create those benefits, to create those opportunities for employees.
All right. So then let's start off first with explain what the benefits are. Like, why should an employer, we'll start with the employer first. Why should an employer pay any attention to what you are about to say?
The employer has many, many reasons to walk down the list. Number one, major medical is hurting a lot of business owners. We've seen this trend of increasing deductibles to kind of just even out the increase in the premiums that you're paying for the medical insurance. So So what we've had in the United States is an increase in deductibles to households, but an increase in premiums as well. And they've tried to stave off that a little bit by increasing premiums, but it hurts 50% plus of bankruptcies in America because of unpaid medical bills. And it's these large costs that are really hurting employees and Americans in general. So
Okay.
number one, it helps alleviate some of that. It helps put a proactive plan in place. It is proactive. We have a lot of mechanisms in place with some of our partners inside of our Capstone Health Plan that allows you to be proactive and actually engage. We see utilization much higher than those traditional wellness plans. On top of that, the employer is going to save money on average, that $400 to $500 per employee per year. So there's a savings on top of that.
Okay, let's stop there. You just said an average employer is going to save how much per employee? Try that one again.
Yeah, $400 to $500 per year per employee.
Employers, are you listening? $400 to $500 a year per employee in savings. So is it costing employers? Yes or no?
No net cost is my answer there. So the answer is, so that savings is net of the cost. So we create the savings, we take our fee out for the program, for the back office, for all the stuff that we do inside of there, customer service. And then what's left over is still savings. So there's no net cost. Your bottom line is going to increase as a result.
So it is actually a net savings to the employer.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So employers who are listening should at least be looking into this without a doubt, because $400 to $500 as an average for every employee with a net savings. Well, damn, if you had like 10 employees or you had 50 employees, you had 500 employees, that's a massive net savings to be looking at. And that's not something anyone should be shying away from, right?
Correct. I mean, it offsets costs in other places, helps in many areas. So yeah, every little bit helps, especially right now with the strain that a lot of business owners are under.
All right. So let's transition then. So you're an employer. Sorry, you're an employee. You're an
Yep.
employee. You're an employee and you work for a company.
Yep.
And your employer says to you, "Hey, listen, we've got a new benefit that we're introducing in our company." And most employees are going to go, blah, blah, blah. What do I care? Why should an employee care about this and pay enough attention to where they might go, "I want to enroll"?
Yeah. I mean, the employee options or reasons are just as great. So I want to create a separation here. So there's the Capstone Health Program as part of this wellness plan from the Affordable Care Act, right? And so the savings for the employee and the savings for the employer are kind of the big keys here. They have access to some great additional benefits, great services, utilizing our Capstone Health Program. But the employees are going to save about $120 to $140 a month themselves. That's a month, not per year like the employer number. So there's a larger savings for the employees.
So I'm going to frame it in a way that employees may not necessarily capture immediately. That's called a pay raise.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you're looking at approximately $140 a month pay raise. And for anyone that's lousy at math like I am, that means that is over $1,000 a year in the form of a pay raise just for taking on this benefit.
Correct. Now, with pay raises comes taxes. So that's something I definitely want to make sure we're clear on. That it is a taxable pay raise, and that those new dollars that we created, as we call it, an efficiency that we created, do become taxable. So that's the program, right? That's the opportunities, the savings. We have Capstone Health Plan where you have the proactive health management. There's some really great features in there. I won't dive too deep into that for this call, but the kind of the byproduct of this program is really the meat and potatoes of what I believe from the employer and the employee side becomes really a great benefit, which is those dollars can be used for what's called 213D is another area of the code, qualified products. So this would be insurance products that they would buy that are in their employer sponsored, that they could utilize, like dental, like vision, like disability and life and critical illness and cancer and gap. I mean, gap's something we should definitely talk about, but these are products that are out there that they can utilize, take those dollars, buy them, and they remain tax efficient. They're not paying tax on those dollars as a result of this 213 qualification. So this makes, again, why the employers, they look great to their employees. Hey, we're putting this program, we're creating these dollars for you to buy benefits. And, we're talking about these trends that we see, and there's a trend of about 35% of employees foregoing electing benefits because they're having to choose between putting food on the table, paying for kids to go to school, to activities, right? Braces, whatever the things that they have to deal with as a family. And they're saying, oh, I'm not going to add them to the, oh, no, we're not going to do this plan. Now here we're creating that opportunity for them, which is awesome.
See, to me, when I heard about this, I thought this is actually incredible.
Yeah,
Um, the fact that, it's I am gonna have you dive in just a little bit about, sort of what it looks like. I want you to talk a little bit about the app that comes with it because,
sure.
from someone who's had to, go to a doctor, uh, someone who has to deal with a doctor. Wow, someone who's had to go to the emergency room, just the benefits of the app alone that comes with this, from an employee standpoint, like, this becomes a no-brainer, and I think I'm framing this, in a way because, a lot of times people might be listening to this podcast and, if you're a business owner who's listening to this podcast, you absolutely should be looking into this. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely should be looking into this.
I
But
agree.
employees typically may not, and so I'm really encouraging anyone who happens to be a W-2 employee, who happens to have healthcare through their company, listen to what this is and have the gusto enough to go to your boss, to go to the owner of the company and say, "Hey, you should check this out." So, can you just give an employee a clue as to what it looks like, even just for the app that you have,
Yep.
to provide them with a greater level of access to health care and wellness?
I mean, I can use me as the example here. My family and I, we take a big Christmas trip every year, and we went to Europe. And I'm literally on the flight home New Year's Day, last hour of a 8-hour flight, and I'm going downhill. I'm getting sick, stomach, head, like everything. Just I think my body just collapsed. And so that week, and tried to fight it off for a few days. I was in bed. I'm like, I'll be all right, and it just kept getting worse. So I pulled out my Maze. So Maze Health is our partner on that side that handles the app and the technology, and their mottos, one platform for all these different tools. Right, you're only dealing with one vendor here. So I press send, and we know this. We've seen demos and we've talked about this. But it's my first time just as a consumer using it. So I hit. You open up the app. There's just like a send button, just like you're making a phone call. Within 10 seconds, I'm on a call with a nurse practitioner. What's going on, Chris? How's it going with this and that? Um, the doctor in my state was seeing somebody at that time. Usually it's a transfer right over. She said that, I'm sorry, the doctor's seeing somebody in your state. But we'll contact you and we'll call you right back. So in between that, there's an app for messaging, or there's messaging inside the app. So they're messaging me, hey, the doctor's about to finish. We'll call you soon. Doctor calls me, goes through my symptoms. So, yep, here's what's going on. Sends my prescription to my pharmacy. And this all happened within probably 10 minutes total. And when I got my prescription, within an hour, I'm taking my pills. And that day, that same nurse practitioner followed up with me in the in-app chat. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Feeling? You got your prescription? Checking in with me. So it's the engagement, the service, the ease of business is just second to none out there. And then with some of the new stuff we have coming out, which won't come out till April, but we're talking biometric scanning, different things that in-app that can read blood pressure and other things that just no one has it. And so when you look at that, the ability to get care quickly, easily, and the engagement and the way that they do it is so good that we're seeing a large engagement as a result of this. That's really what these wellness plans were put in place for. And we feel like we're meeting expectations there and helping employees as well there.
So there was a story, about the use of this app that I heard the other day that, I guess if you have the features turned on your phone, I guess, and maybe you know the story, maybe you don't. If you do, please speak to it. There was one of your clients, one of the users of the app, went to the emergency room for a problem, and while they were sitting in the emergency room, the app recognized where they were, and through the app, somebody contacted them and said, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you at the emergency room? How can we help?"
Yep.
And they were able to help them where they didn't have to sit in the ER all day. They were actually taken care of right there from the waiting room in the ER to get them out of a situation, to give them medical care even before the ER could treat them. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, this is where that bolt on that we talk about comes into play, where if someone has a medical plan where we can integrate this in, they can know what's going on in the medical plan. We could turn on permissions and everything have to be granted for geofencing, where they could say, all right, we know you're in this area. We know you're sitting in the emergency room. And as we know claims and we see claims data from, different areas of care, we know emergency rooms are very expensive to go to. So if I got a twisted ankle and I'm sitting in an emergency room, number one, you're going to wait for hours. We've all had that experience. Number two, service, care, all that. It's not great. They're pushing a lot of things through, right? So it's not always a great experience on top of that. And then the third part is it's very expensive. It's a hospital, they have a lot of employees, a lot of costs, overhead, everything. So yeah, so in this case, we could do that. That app is going to communicate with them and it's going to help them make a better decision for them. And two, the employers listening to plans, right? The whole thing is if we can drive costs of care down, that leads to a reversal of what we're seeing, just increasing prices all the time with health insurance. And so if we can help them with the app, or if it is something they need to see something, we say, hey, 3 miles down the road, there's an urgent care that has a 30-minute wait and is a fraction of the cost. We want to drive better decisions that are better for them and better for the plan as well.
Oh my gosh. Now, here we go. This sounds too good to be true. It's too good to be
Yes.
true. We got to run away
Yep.
because it's too good to be true. Now, debunk that, because I will say this. I did a Google search. I looked this up.
Yep.
Man, I'll tell you what, this sounds rife with fraud. There's a
Sure.
lot of fraud out there surrounding stuff like this. Yours is a little bit different, and I think it's important to distinguish what makes you different from the rest of the guys who are just committing fraud and vomiting all over themselves with fraud.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there, right? I think there's two things. There's bad actors in anything, and there's opinions with anything, and that's what we have a lot of. We have some bad actors that have created a bad need for this, not necessarily because of the program. That's the interesting thing. It's because of how they're implementing it with employers and the fallout from the employer relationship with that broker. So that's the majority of issues there. But we also, yes, we see issues with opinions of how this should be interpreted and all that stuff. So that's a very deep answer that I'll touch on here with a couple things. People have opinions. I can tell you what my high school coach said about those, but I won't on this. We'll be professional here. So you have to discount a lot of that right out of the gates. But when you hear something like it's too good to be true, this is a no-brainer. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If there's math, reasoning, and actual codes that we're using, right, that are part of the tax code that we're using that back all this up and we can explain this, there's an explanation. There's actual logic and principle based on how this is done. So what I would say is, number one, page 509 of the Affordable Care Act, you can read about wellness plans and where these came from. So it's in the Affordable Care Act. It's tax law, so it's not something that can be changed, in our opinion, and in the opinion of professionals we've talked to, and they're in force and in place without Congress or someone acting on this, because the IRS or no one can affect tax law without what's that whole Tea Party thing, right? Taxation without representation. That needs to happen.
Yeah, don't tread on me.
So it's all of those kind of factors. And then when you do look into like we talked about, Capstone is a wellness and proactive health plan. That's what they were made to do. There needs to be a medical plan that it is aligned with. And that needs to be the primary focus. As I mentioned, like the products and all that, that's a byproduct of actually what the program is intended. And so when you hear people, oh, you don't need a medical plan, or, buy this thing with, and pushing product, that's where you start those hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up. So when we know it's a wellness plan, we'll put that into place, and then we use the byproduct of the benefit to help your employees in a customized way for what you as an employer need and your employees need as a result of what you're already doing or what you want to do. That's the big differentiator. And I mean, full disclosure too, on our program, we've had it vetted by many companies, many high-level attorneys and CPAs in different areas. But we also have, for you employers listening, we have an indemnity reinsurance program for this plan that if anything ever changes in the tax code and there's anything retroactive, which there's no precedent for that, but if that ever were to happen, that our plan will be covered for any clawback of any taxes due, any penalties or interest, and any legal fees. So that's how confident we are and how much we've embedded in.
So to simplify that, what you're actually saying is that for the employers, you have wrapped this service up with an insurance policy, a general liability policy to cover the employers themselves should there be changes uh, to the code to make sure that they are protected. And this is something probably not through State Farm. This is probably a general liability insurance through a much
Yeah,
larger
a
firm.
third party reinsurance that's reinsuring, indemnifying against those three things. Absolutely.
Right. So
Yep.
therefore, the employer in this situation is protected because it is the whole thing is wrapped by a general liability policy. That I'm assuming by saying this, as the policies are put together, as the program is set up, you are literally then naming the employer as an insuree on that policy.
That will get be named on a certificate of insurance. Absolutely.
That's that's pretty sharp. So that what that does essentially is it reduces the risk significantly to the employer,
Yeah.
and that takes away that component of, well, this is fraud. I mean, if you're naming an employee on a general liability employer on a general liability policy, you're not out to commit fraud. I mean,
No, we're not.
that's that's not a
No,
thing.
no, we're
And
not.
and so I think that's why it's important for me to at least, get you to distinguish that, because that is the factor that takes it from fraudster, shyster, bad actor to this is legit. And the other thing that I think made it legit is when you do look at what the IRS and some of these scam, believe me, I did my homework. Scam websites say, look for this, look for this. If you see this, it's a red flag. Well, one of the things that you said is that you're not going to do this unless the employer has an employer sponsored health plan, a
Yeah,
legit health plan in place,
yeah.
because the ones who are doing the fraud are the ones who are going, no, no, you don't need that, and you're going to save lots of money, employer, because you won't have to have a healthcare plan. And so, I think that I think you did a really good job as far as addressing those concerns. So
Thank you.
therefore, again, why wouldn't an employer look at this? What do you
Yeah, and that,
generally hear why they don't look at it?
yeah, I think for the reasons we discussed, everyone, like I was talking with a group yesterday, and they literally go, well, if this we have to count this as a liability, and I'm like, well, you have literally have an insurance policy. It's just things they don't understand. There's fear involved in anything we do, right? And I think it's that fear of the unknown. And we use the example of like when you look at 401ks, how long they took to get adopted, even pre-tax, that section 125, the pre-tax of benefits, how long it took even the government to adopt them. We're talking 7 years, I think, on 401ks. Like we took years for people to start adopting these things. So tax laws change. We've all had that. We've all seen that. This is tax law. And so I think once you get over that fear and uncertainty and more so, excuse me, in the years we've been doing this, we went from that fear to now we're getting calls. Hey, remember you presented this a couple of months ago? Oh, now my buddy's doing it. We want to do it too. And so as it starts gaining popularity, more acceptance, you have the leaders that kind of are at the forefront. They're like, yeah, I'm willing to do these new things and try new things. And the other ones that are like, I'm going to sit back and see what happens here. And I think the leaders, the ones on the forefront, get the benefit, obviously, and the others eventually they'll catch up, but lost out during that time. So, again, it's having a conversation, it's customizing these things, but there's no reason not to. There's always little issues to be concerned about, like setting up payroll properly. But again, that's where we come in, where we contracted with payroll companies that will actually help do this for you. We'll run dry payrolls and make sure everything goes smoothly, because there are some moving pieces to that. And we know we've done this long enough. So again, it's seeking out professionals that do it right. We believe that's us.
So I'm going to dive into the weeds for a little bit of just because of something you said. So you work with payroll companies. Can you just what are like the top 3 or 5 payroll companies that you work with to make it easy? Because that's going to cover probably 90% of the payroll companies out there.
So to be clear, we work with like HR and payroll consultants that deal with all of those things. So, there's the
Okay.
big boys out there. There's ADP, there's Paylocity, there's um,
Paychecks.
QuickBooks, Paychecks, right? All the big ones. But I mean, I think, over time we kind of, I think we've had over 3,000 different payrolls that we've had to interface with at one point or another. So
Jeez.
they all are similar but different. And so that's why we have professionals that deal with payroll, paychecks and payroll, all the time, from that standpoint, that are actually consulting, helping get the information we need, helping you implement these things. So you're not having the frustration of trying to figure it out.
So let me reverse the question since I came about it completely the wrong direction. The long and the short of it is you're going to end up working with that company, whoever the company is that decides they want to come to you, and you're going to help them with their payroll process to ensure that it is a smooth, um, uh, smooth add-on to their payroll process and their
Yep.
company. It's not going to be a big headache. For me, I think, I think of my wife who hates doing payroll as it is, has, oh my God, just changes in payroll when we added a 401k, uh, running payroll, dealing with payroll. I mean, it's this constant stress for her. It's always been a flaming pain in the ass. And if it's happening to her, then there's always a probability that it's happening to lots of small businesses. And so by you providing this, knowing, going into it, someone's going to be there to hold the hand. Someone's going to be there to make sure it's done right. You're going to do the dry run to make sure that it's going to be accurate. And then from that point, once it's set up properly, then it just goes back to the simplicity of, well, yeah, you're going to add how this Jay worked 45 hours this week. So he's going to have, 40 hours of regular and 5 hours of overtime. And this much goes to this, to this, to this, to this within the FICA, the benefits and all that. And it's very simple. So it's not something to be afraid of.
Right. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, there you have it. We're going to wrap it up. We're coming up on the end of our time together. You couldn't give me all day. Otherwise, I would take you all day. Are there any final thoughts that you want to add to, provide this audience, the greatest audience that ever existed in the pod world and on YouTube, because everyone should be watching on YouTube. And by the way, that means you should be watching, subscribing, and leaving amazing reviews. Is there anything else
Right.
that you'd like to add?
I would say check it out for yourself, right? It's one of those things. Everyone we talk to, every business we talk to is so different because of their needs. Like you said, retention, recruitment, all of that stuff, what their employees have, what they have at their disposal, already, what they want to add. And that's really where we can help customize. So check it out for yourself. Let's have a conversation. Happy to help however we can. And in the end, we've done some incredible things. It's a fun program to be a part of. I've been in the financial services industry, group benefits side, 20 years and combining all those things. And this is one of those things I don't feel like I'm selling anybody. I feel like we're helping people. We're creating the savings to even pay for it. Like it's just a fun program to be a part of, and it's just a win-win-win for everybody involved. So lots of fun, and I'm joining the party.
Excellent. Well, listen, anyone that decides they want to reach out, what website are they going to?
Sure. CapstoneHealthPlan.com. You can check us out there.
CapstoneHealthPlan.com. Say that one
Yep.
again.
CapstoneHealthPlan.com.
And that is one more time.
CapstoneHealthPlan.com.
There we go. Okay. So anyone that's going to go to that website, anyone that's going to get in touch with Capstone, the first thing you need to tell them is you heard about it here first. You heard about it. Brainsky, I sent you because, maybe you get a little something. I don't know. I'll have to talk to him about that after the call. But at the same time, no, seriously. Seriously though, by all means, it's worth looking into. And employees, why on earth would you not want that value? It comes in the form of more money in your pocket that you could be using to take better care of yourself and your family and have access to ways of doing it in a much better, smarter way than you're probably already doing. You do not see this from regular insurance companies. You will not see this from direct care by itself. This to me is a fantastic blend of excellent quality care where the employer doesn't have to lose money in the process. So they're motivated, and you as an employee can actually probably get a raise out of it. So by all means, you should be looking at this. That's once again, CapstoneHealthCarePlan.com. Go to the link attached to the show here on YouTube, attached to wherever you find your podcast, wherever that is in the show notes. By all means, go to the link, learn more about it. Very easy to click. Just do it. You got nothing to lose. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.